Oh, it's gone very quiet. Copy worn off already. Okay. I hope everyone enjoyed that. That's good fun. Learning a lot about copy. Copy break. So, what's your name? Leon. Great copy knowledge. Showing up the host there. So again, welcome to this event. I'll just introduce you to a few people. So Adthena folks, just raise your hands and say hello. There you go, there's a few. And conductor partners. Yep, there you go, we've got a few. Has everyone heard of those two brands? You should do. You don't need to do pitch deck or anything like that. That'd be an awful idea. So Adthena, paid search, conductor, organic SEO. Okay, so match made in heaven. We are good partners. I just wanted to give you a quick couple of insights before we start. So again, my name's Ashley Fletcher, CMO of Adthena. I just want to give you some insight into what I'm hearing and seeing in the market at the moment. So I'm part of the CMO community in the US and just understanding what's happening in the market. So quick show of hands, who's under a bit of pressure with budgets at the moment? Yeah, everyone, right? Got to spend it carefully. You hearing that? Yeah. Anyone having budget removed at the moment at quite a rapid clip? Yeah. Okay. What's your pain? Come on, it's a safe environment here. Horrible experience, having to justify it. Whilst you're eating. Yeah. Budget conversations regularly.
So we're fine, but it's the brand side that.
The brand side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we always have something.
Yeah. So if I was to summarize what I'm hearing from CMO network, it kind of falls into a few buckets. So the first one, I would say big events, big expensive in-person events, all of these expensive cross-links and things like that, people are kind of cutting back on. But we can run niche events like this, but big, large sponsorships, MarTech events, you'll see kind of less big vendors at those types of trade shows at the moment. Okay, so anything that is really broad brand awareness, they're getting smaller and more intimate, which is great because you end up learning a whole bunch more, like you were this morning. The next one is it's far easier to grow your current customer base than going out to acquire a brand new one. So if you think about Amazon Prime, going to acquire a brand new customer, it's actually probably more economically efficient to grow an existing one, cross-sell, upsell, all of those things. So that's why we've been sold so much by the brands we love. Okay, so customer marketing has really come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years, and that's the main role that I'm seeing a lot of CMOs and investment go into. So it's really good because you do see product roadmap development quite quick. So you feel the benefits of fast iterations of new products coming to market, which is good. And the last one, which applies to everyone in this room really, is the lower funnel activity when you're looking at acquiring new customers or upselling. The lower funnel is getting far more attention than it ever has. Okay, the upper funnel stuff. Did anyone see the news from Google broke yesterday? Yeah, go on, give us a quick summary. YouTube, yeah, awful.
Yeah. Essentially, YouTube placements serving on video partners, and that's not premium. Shock, surprise, horror. Oh, you didn't know that. Google
showing your ads on irrelevant stuff, and yeah. So I think it could have legs to be quite bad, and a big fine coming their way. I think in this room, the people responsible for search, we're in a really safe place because there's such high intent and lower funnel, particularly with organic and paid working better together. So that's my kind of tee up for today's event. It's timely. We hope the insights, we're not just going to plow through 200 slides or anything like that. We're going to show you insights, hopefully actionable insights as well, to get you thinking about how you can apply this in your day-to-day. I think there's a few agency folks in the room as well. We care about your time. We want to make these quick and efficient wins. So so a lot of the agenda is geared up around that. So keep popping up if you want some more breakfast. Come and get that. We're going to go into our first presentation at the moment with Fiona and Joe. Fiona is such a good presenter. We've got her name twice. And then we'll go over to Claudia and Alina for the next one as well. So again, quite short sessions. We don't want to drag these out to be too long. Lots of insights for you to understand and enjoy. And then we'll go to Claudia and Anna to finish up, and then live Q&A. So very relaxed room, questions whenever, please, if that's okay. Again, safe environment here, let loose. So with that, let's hand you over to Fiona and Joe.
Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Well, I'm standing right in front. I'll stand over here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I guess for only 10 minutes, don't worry. We're going to be given a good overview of how we can bring paid and organic together. And hopefully by the end of the session, that would have been fleshed out a little bit more with Anna, Alina, and the rest of the gang as well. So without further ado, my name's Joe and I'm an account manager at Adthena. My role is to ensure that our client base are getting as much value from not only Adthena, but from paid search as a channel itself.
Yeah, my name is Fiona McGovern. I'm Senior Director of Media at Conductor, so oversee our European customer base, working with many different brands on their organic search strategy, and similar to Joe, ensuring that they know what they're doing, they're tracking, they're optimizing, and they're measuring everything from an organic search perspective, and also thinking about how they can collaborate better from a paid perspective too. When we think about, obviously, as Ashley was mentioning, a lot of people are crunching budgets and thinking about how can they do more with less. You really want to consider all of the different channels, and particularly from an intent perspective, how you can really optimize. Within the Conductor platform, we focus on all the different stages of the buyer journey, the funnel, whatever you may want to call it, and think about how you are targeting from awareness, interest, consideration, and purchase. But really just being really smart and effective with smaller budgets.
Yeah, and I guess it's worth noting that brands need to be where the consumers are, and whilst paid budgets are incremental and paid as a channel is incremental, it does drive that volume. Budgets are not infinite, because I've learned the hard way in the past as a paid search assistant. And I think, as Ash mentioned, budgets are getting tighter. I think Marketing Week came out and said only a third of brands are probably increasing their budgets for 2023. So this feels like a good time to look at how we can bring paid and organic working more closely together.
Absolutely. And who is more familiar with paid or organic? I guess we'll do a show of hands for paid. Oh, okay. Amazing. And then who is organic? What's that? Oh,
okay. So fairly even split. Fairly even split.
It's great. And obviously, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I was just going to mention, I guess, for the uninitiated of the other side, before we define, I guess, the two different channels, it's worth noting that even though whatever channel you do go down, the consumer got there in the same way through the search. So providing your broad match are fairly disciplined, that is the case. Paid, obviously, it's Google's biggest revenue generator with 100 billion minimum per year. So it's not going anywhere, but if we can identify where brands can save budget and be more efficient, then that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've seen is that, I mean, I'm sure obviously everyone working in search anyway realizes the importance, hopefully, of the work that you're doing. But 90% of users are not going past the first 10 results, and 30% are clicking on the first results that they see. So it's more important than ever that you're really thinking about how you own those top spots, not from one or the other, but really together as a holistic strategy, a holistic approach, to really have full coverage, because no one's going much further.
And who works across both channels, or who has at least some sort of communication or relationship with the other channel, either from organic? Okay, awesome. That's good to see. And those who don't, I guess that's the rest. Yeah, okay, cool. In that case, we've just wanted to put a few points down here for those maybe who don't have that current line with the other channel, and maybe for those that already do, and this may be what you're already doing, but what we wanted to boil down first of all was around like your paid spend. So using the other channel to inform how you place your budget. So where is organic performing well that actually paid can probably pull back on, and vice versa as well. Where's organic perhaps not having the same coverage as you'd expect and needs a bit of support from paid.
Yeah, and as you know, obviously there's a ton of insight that you can gather through paid search performance, and how are you applying that to a content strategy. It's hugely important to understand and ensure that you have content that's geared towards your different consumers or users, your audience in general, and really using the intelligence you can get from a paid search perspective allows you to optimize and be super effective with a really critical content strategy.
Yeah, and then when you have both, that allows you to then go and look at the market, and once they're in good order, where can you capture that market share from your competitors' standpoint?
Yeah, and then incorporating SEO best practices into your paid search campaigns as well, critically important. We have seen just at Conductor a range of different scenarios where some customers have very collaborative combined strategies across both channels, and others are quite separate. We're really thinking about how you can bring both together, apply best practices across the board is ultimately going to ensure that you're most successful as an organization, as a channel, looking at search as a whole. So critically important to think about that.
Yeah, and I guess that feeds into the final point. You know, if you have all those 4 points in good order, then that promotes collaboration and communication between the two channels.
Yeah. And typically, I think we see sometimes like leadership can be different across the two channels. So anything you can do together to bridge those gaps, to bring things together is really effective. And ultimately, even if you have separate leadership, everyone should be thankful because it'll improve your results. We've seen similar, as I mentioned, obviously some customers having really good collaborative strategy. Citi being a large finance organization globally, really broke down silos across their teams and consolidated the data so that they could be most effective in their approach across the entire channel, and integrated analytics within Conductor so that they could actually look at the measurement, look at what's happening, because ultimately everyone is, you know, interested in the data and the performance and the insights. And when you are working off the same, what's a hymnal?
Hymn sheet.
I've only heard that once. Not really an American thing to say, but when you actually are looking at the same thing, it allows for that strategy and that collaboration to be more seamless. And ultimately, saw 100% increase in credit card applications, which was a huge goal for them. And yeah, really is the end game in terms of thinking about the results that you're getting together.
Awesome. And yeah, on the other side for Adthena, we worked with Avanti West Coast for a few years now, and coming out of COVID, obviously they weren't in the best shape as transport wasn't, and they needed to identify ways where they could actually save budget. The government also have a scorecard where they classify transport companies as efficient. In order to do that, they need to prove where they've been able to drive efficiencies within their business. Now, obviously, that is kind of counteracting coming out of COVID, where yield and volume were lacking. So what we had to do using Adthena was identify where actually they were performing well organically on a search term level and a category level that they could actually pull back on with paid, and we used the metric of competitor count to understand that and guide that. And then once we identified that, we're able to pull back. And obviously the beauty of using a competitive tool such as that is you don't need to be online to see what's happening within the market. So if a competitor or that search term or that category did get more competitive, then we're able to identify that and make changes accordingly. So we ended up saving 1/3 of their brand budget by doing that. Now, obviously, that is great, all well and good for saving budget. However, the volume was still an issue. And so instead of reporting back savings to the business, because they probably would have lost that budget for the following year, we actually reinvested that into generics. So using the tool, we identified some key generic terms that Avanti weren't visible on at the time. And we tested with this new budget that they didn't previously have from the savings. And we ended up driving, as you can see here, it's quite a bulky number there, 538% increase in click share on their generic terms. So yeah, a good example there of how we can save budget, but also drive incremental volume as well. Cool. Awesome. We kind of raced through that one. Thank you very much for your time. If you guys did have any questions on the case studies or anything like that, please do reach out.
So any questions for Joan here?
Thank you for your patience. That was obviously all planned, all part of it. So Alina and I are now going to jump into the platforms themselves and show you 3 different ways that you can use the data from SEO, from natural search with paid search in order to define the best actions to take and also to strategize. So we're going to start off in the Conductor platform. I just wanted to talk about a scenario in which we maybe are losing some visibility on some terms organically, dropping through the rankings, and need to find a way of protecting that traffic. So I've come into our keywords report, which is essentially the backbone of our keyword reporting in the platform, where we can see a stacked graph of where we're ranking across over time. But even though this looks pretty stable, there are going to be some keyword movements week to week. Some are going to go up, some are going to go down. Maybe the kind of net number is pretty similar, but there might be some key terms in there that we want to protect. So using the filtering here, I can break this down into a list of keywords that we can potentially take action on. So I've applied some filters here to look at where last week we were in the top 10, and this week we're in the next 10 results. So still very relevant, but outside of that kind of zone where 90% of the traffic comes from, likely not bringing as much traffic in via those terms. I've also then applied a filter that is making sure that we're looking at terms that have got 5,000 or more searches per month, just to make sure that the exercise is worth a while and we're not spending a lot of time or putting a lot of effort into protecting 8 visits. And then I've sorted this table at the bottom here by monthly search volume so that we can see the most crucial terms for which we've dropped out of the top 10 week over week and are likely getting less traffic for. So at this point, I can take this, I can export this table, and I can pass it over to my colleagues in the paid team so that they can kind of run with the ball from there.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. So now that we have identified these keywords where we have had a fall in performance, what we can do is look into Athena data to see if there's any sort of opportunities to push these keywords maybe a little bit more from paid perspective. So what we've done here, so we've actually, as Claudia said, we've exported a list of keywords and we've saved it as a search term group in Athena. And first, what we wanted to do is just to have a look at sort of the top line performance. So we're in the market share report, and that allows us to see our share of clicks, so how much traffic we're securing versus the rest of the market across different channels and devices. So here, just really wanted to have a look at the paid performance, just to see, is there really a headroom in terms of pushing paid performance on these keywords? So we can see, so it's Wayfair account, it's second biggest paid competitor, but there's quite a huge gap in terms of performance between Wayfair and top competitor Amazon. So definitely a lot of room to push paid presence. Now, taking that a little bit further, we want to identify the specific search terms where it would be worth allocating, let's say, the most paid budget, because we've seen drop in organic traffic. So we can have a look at the search term detail report. So that tells us on each of these search terms, how many competitors there are, what's the total available traffic across the market, who's the top competitor. We also see CPC range estimates as well, which can help us with planning. So what we can see here, so as I mentioned, we've got the top competitor column, and you can see in some of them, Wayfair is actually the top competitor, so meaning it's the competitor who appears the most often in the top position. But in some of the others, including the top two, so shoe storage, ceiling fan, it isn't. So perhaps these are the search terms which Wayfair can have a look at increasing paid performance. So what we can also do here, so now that we've identified like shoe storage, ceiling fan, are some of the top traffic driving terms, we can further filter that report to see Wayfair performance specifically, just to see, you know, can we see these keywords at the top of the Wayfair list in terms of what is driving Wayfair performance. So shoe storage is actually already one of the top driving keywords for Wayfair specifically, but ceiling fan, which was another top term, which was driving over 40,000 clicks in the market, for Wayfair it's only driving 1.6, and you can see the average position on paid is 2.8. So again, this is a good indicator of some of these specific areas, specific campaigns where Wayfair could push more from a paid perspective and grow market share now that there's been a bit of a decline in terms of organic traffic. So yeah, so that was the first use case that we wanted to cover in terms of how you could use both platforms to grow market share. Now we wanted to look into a little bit of a more of a different use case in where you can identify maybe some efficiency opportunities. So the report that I'm looking at here is called Spend Efficiency Report. So what it does is provides you a breakdown across some of the different categories that Wayfair, product categories that Wayfair is present in. And we've got what we call a spend efficiency metric. So in Athena, we've got metrics for share of clicks and share of spend. So spend efficiency is the ratio of share of clicks by share of spend, and it allows you to understand are you paying efficiently relative to the amount of clicks that you're getting. So spend efficiency can rank from goods, where you're getting a lot of clicks for the amount of spend, to worse, where it's sort of the reverse situation. So in this case, desk is being flagged as one of the categories with a fair spend efficiency. So what we can do is we can investigate the search terms within that category to see which are the specific terms where Wayfair may have slightly lower spend efficiency than the others in that category. Giving a bit of a minute to load. We do have a predefined report that tells us which keywords they are. So when that loads, that will take us back to the search term detail report, where you can basically see the whole market, and you can also filter it by Wayfair to see like how much Wayfair is paying and how much traffic is receiving across the two terms. I don't know if it's my internet, but maybe for the interest of time, I did actually look at this before. So these are some of the terms in orange where Wayfair has got slightly lower spend efficiency than some of the others. So what we can then do is take these back to Conductor and then identify content improvement opportunities.
Thanks. So I'm going to jump back into this keywords report, but this time I've applied a filter because I've taken those keywords that were identified by the pay team and created a keyword group for them so that we can see where we're performing well for those terms and where there's maybe scope to optimize. So I have selected the PPC Synergy Desks keyword group, which is very clunkily named, but then I've also applied a filter here just to look at where we are ranking in what we call striking distance. So essentially position 11 to 20, close to the top of the results within that kind of second page zone, but not quite on the first page. So potentially a quick win there for ranking a little bit higher. So I've taken the example of gaming desk here, and one of the things that has been developed in the last couple of years at Conductor is a feature called content guidance that can be really useful for finding these, once you found these opportunities of where you want to do some optimization terms that you want to optimize for, actually giving some real directional insights about how best to optimize those pages. So I've loaded one up over here, and essentially what we're doing here is for any term that we've entered, so in this case, gaming desk, because that's one of the ones that can benefit both channels. We put that in there, and then Conductor has gone and crawled the results page for this term in the US, which is the market that we've selected, and it's finding the commonalities across roughly the top 15 results on the first couple of pages there, looking at commonalities across titles, patterns in meta descriptions, header tags, how long are the pages, how quickly do they load, all those kind of things that might be quite useful for kind of looking at what the competition's doing and looking at what kind of pages, what kind of content is ranking high. We can also add in a page to optimize at this point. But one of the things that makes this collaboration between SEO and PPC so effective is that the page that's ranking the highest for organic at the moment might not actually be the most effective page to have in that position when it comes to user metrics. So from the paid team, we can understand which pages potentially get the highest click-through rate, which ones convert the best from their point of view. So we can enter either the one that's ranking the highest if we want to try and boost that one up, or if we want to look at a different page and potentially optimize that one and de-optimize the other one and try and kind of manipulate which URLs are ranking, we can also do that. And we can do that across any of those terms, help get them into a stronger position, and then kind of take up some of the slack from the paid team in the terms that are less efficient than others. Cool. So on to the third and final view. So, one thing just before we move on to there, because we're also integrating Search Console data into the Conductor platform, one of the concerns sometimes when collaborating across teams is that you've got all this data from paid about how many people are clicking on these terms, how effective this campaign is being, whether you're getting that traffic. And there can be a concern that if you kind of start relying on organic a little bit more, you're going to end up with a blind spot in terms of that performance. So by integrating that data into Conductor, we can allow you to apply the keyword groups that you've created to that Search Console data, which any of you that specialize in SEO will know is kind of a difficult thing to do within the Search Console interface itself. So this is a great way of just being able to monitor how much traffic are we getting through these terms that we're kind of handing off to SEO from paid, and just to make sure that you have full visibility, you have that joined up data across the board. So both the workflows we've just looked at now are quite kind of tactical. This has happened, so therefore we need to take this action, or this is the state of affairs in this campaign, therefore we can improve things by doing this. But actually, once you start getting that collaboration rolling between the two teams, you can actually bring this earlier and earlier into the process and actually look at this in a more strategic way. So one of those ways is looking at the kind of competitive landscape, both for organic and for paid. So using Conductor, we can do this in market share. We can look at any keyword group, any set of keyword groups. We can create new keyword groups to align with the way the paid are thinking about their terms. And from here, we can detect who the competitors are that we need to be thinking about. So you don't need to be tracking competitors for them to show up in this. If you've got competitors that you've never heard of who have suddenly emerged, you're going to be able to see them in there. And that could be something that could also be really useful to the paid team. So we can see which domains are prominent across any set of keywords, and also see that trended over time to get a real understanding of, what does this look like at scale when we roll this up to the next level up above keywords. Who are we competing with, and are they waxing or waning in terms of their market share?
And of course, we can get some additional insights from Athena. So one of the features that I wanted to show is something that we've actually added onto the platform very recently. So it's a feature called My Analytics, which allows you to run a whole load of cool visualizations and get insights from there. So one of the ones that I wanted to show you today is this market dashboard, where you can run a cross-category analysis of Wayfair and up to 2 other competitors. So I've selected Amazon and Walmart here, and just a few product categories once again to run this analysis on. So the point of this analysis is to show in which categories Wayfair might be getting more traffic than the other 2 competitors, and where it's sort of losing traffic to its competitors. So this is what this chart at the bottom allows us to see. So we can see that in a few categories, the Wayfair is in green, living room, living room and sofas. Wayfair is actually getting more traffic than the other 2 competitors, but there are some of the others like outdoor furniture, just the general furniture segment, as well as desk, which we looked at before, where the other 2 competitors are receiving relatively more traffic. So once again, once we've identified these categories, we can have a look at the market share report. So this is filtering on the furniture category to understand where Wayfair sits in the market. So in the overall market, paid and organic combined is top 3rd competitor. Amazon and Home Depot are above it, and then see what the channel split looks like. So in this case, we know that Wayfair is actually leading on paid, but it is lagging above these, behind these competitors in organic. So once again, we can then look at the, let's say, search term detail report, which we had a look at before, and see what kind of terms these 2 other competitors might be receiving more traffic and where Wayfair can invest more. That covers use cases.
Ask me some questions.
I saw you had volume in the Conductor application. Is that just coming from Google?
Yes, in that tracked part, it's coming from Google. We've also got other data sources that use other parts here.
And sorry, one more.
There you go.
One of the things everyone always tells me when I speak to clients, that they're always saying, like, Tom, it's great that you can save us budget, but you have to be able to track where the clicks are going. No one's happy with efficiencies unless they can actually see the uplift coming from organic. Is that something that could be done from Conductor?
Yes. So as well as integrating Google Search Console, we also integrate your analytics data. So when we get the list each week from your analytics of the pages that are receiving traffic, we then crawl the metadata of those pages to detect changes. So at a page level, knowing that you're optimizing for a particular term, what you can do is kind of get all those into a report, and you can correlate the changes that you've made to pages with an uptick in any of the metrics you're bringing in from analytics, whether that's just page views, sessions, bounces, revenue, orders, if it's in retail, for example. But then we're also combining that view with 2 other data sources within the platform, in fact 3 other data sources within the platform, one being the trended rank for the terms that you're tracking that rank with that page, so you can be able to see that uplift in ranking. You're also going to be able to see the terms from our index, our research index, which is somewhere around like 23 billion search terms, I think. So anything you're not tracking, we'll also be able to go, oh, you're ranking for these as well. But we're also then bringing in that Google Search Console to that page as well. So at a URL level, you can see what's going on with your analytics metrics, with your ranking trends, with your untracked keywords, and also with the clicks and impressions that you get from Google Search Console. So a good kind of 360 view of what's going on. Thank you.
Do you have any way of getting conversion data? The only reason I say that is because I feel like the example you gave where SEO traffic dropping off is inherently bad and should be supported by paid doesn't necessarily take into account the efficiency of those keywords that you would then be supporting with paid.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's always the biggest challenge with SEO, right? The kind of conversion at a keyword level is such a black box that it's like we can see where we're ranking for terms, we can see which terms people are clicking on and which pages they're going to, and then from the analytics, you can see who's coming into those pages from from organic and then what they're doing there. So so while you can kind of see directionally, we saw an uplift in clicks here, and then we saw an uplift in conversions on that page that term ranks with. Google's just not giving us that information, so it's really about stitching those data sources together, as we were just talking about, to kind of draw dotted lines and kind of see correlation between changes in optimization, rank trends, and then the conversions that you see from your others.
Yeah, on that point as well, we're working on a bespoke data report between the partnership to put that in one place as well. So, so that's in development at the moment, but you need that visibility to stitch it all together. But yeah, the piece I'm kind of picking up on, I don't know if the rest of the audience saw it, but the speed in which you're trying to action this stuff, you know, it is very actionable, but we're all being asked to sort of react to market changes at breakneck speed. So I think boxing all of this up in a way that it is actionable and moving both channels very quickly, I think is probably going to make everyone's best bit happy. That's just my observations. Any other questions? Right?
I saw there was a cannibalization beta in Conductor. Are you able to share what that does?
Yes, there's a few ways that we can help to identify cannibalization of the platform. The first is like right at the beginning in the research part. So if you are looking at your domain across our research index and you're looking at a term that you rank for, we'll show you all the URLs that you might be ranking with in top 100. Then within the keywords report, there's two different ways that you identify cannibalization. First one being, we'll let you know if it's a different URL ranking from one date to the next. But we'll also let you know how many URLs you have ranking in the top 100 at that point as well. So sometimes you're going to get one URL at a time for doing this, and sometimes you're going to get 3 URLs, but they never switch out, and they're just kind of running parallel to each other on page 2, 4, and 5, for example. So those are some of the ways that we help you to detect cannibalization. But then within the content guidance part of the platform, where we're giving you recommendations, if it looks like you're about to create some new content that you're ranking with a URL already, we'll make sure that we flag that to you, so that you're like, hey, like maybe don't create another piece of content targeting this because you're already ranking in position 28, for example, and just kind of flagging it up so you don't end up creating cannibalization while trying to rank.
Okay. Okay, final speakers.
Yes.
Give it a little wiggle. Okie dokes, perfect. Here we go. Energize your paid and search campaigns by leveraging insights from organic. Hi guys, I'm Anna. I am Athena account manager of account management for EMEA. So a lot of management in my role, as you can probably tell. My responsibility with the rest of the team is looking after our customers in the customer success team. So we listen to all of our customers, we work with all of our customers, and really what we're doing is making sure that they get the value out of the platform, but we really understand what their strategy is from a paid, but also an organic perspective as well. Okay. So we've talked a lot about paid and organic synergy. Everyone wants efficiency. I've been at Athena for 3 years, and I think definitely over the last year, people have been talking more and more about saving budgets in the best possible way. That's not just from a paid perspective, but also from understanding how we can work better with organic. Traditionally, a lot of our customers tend to be a little bit more siloed, having an organic team and a paid team, having different management departments for each of those teams. So it can actually be quite challenging to get everyone to be working together and working on paid and organic efficiently and effectively. I actually had a customer describe it to me recently as a leaky bucket, which is not really what you want when you're working with your teams together. So the main thing for us really, you would have seen before with the insights that we had in place, there's a number of different data sources you can use to really work your paid and organic strategy together. But as Ash kind of pointed out there, time is usually an issue. Getting people together on the same page is usually an issue. But also with all that data to hand, it really makes it very, very challenging to really go through all of that and really understand and actually put together the time to do some tests, for example. So in the past, we used to do tests with Adthena and our paid teams and our organic teams and their agencies as well. And that would really look at, for example, where we're listing top in organic, where we're listing top in paid, so something that what we would call a lone ranger, and then really identifying those with no competition, and then putting together a test, which was a lot easier back in the day when things were a lot more manual, and you used to be able to put a test together, essentially say for 6 weeks, let's do a test, see what happens when we pull back on paid, see what happens when we rely on organic, and basically see what happens. Do we save any budget? Does organic pick up the traffic on the flip side? Would obviously be the goal. But then what happens if competitors start coming back up and they take advantage of the fact that you're no longer in the space, or their potentially their organic listings start to improve and they start taking more of the traffic? All of those things can happen. And really, even though you have something like Adthena, which can tell you on a daily basis when your customers are appearing in the auction, if you're not really going to have a team member potentially sat there looking at the data on a daily basis, potentially looking at the SERP on a daily basis, and really spotting competitors and then having to manually pause and reactivate. So we actually had a customer come to us and essentially say that this is the problem. Everything's becoming a lot more automatic these days. We don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the time to really set up these kind of longer term tests, but also that's a risk for us as well. We can't see what is happening on a very frequent basis. Are we actually losing what would have been paid traffic to our competitors? And how do we know that organic is even picking up the traffic where it should be? So essentially what we did is took that to our product team, built a kind of, I guess, use case for developing a tool that would allow you to do that automatically, and got our product team behind it to actually develop something called Brand Activator. Believe me, if any of you guys work with data engineering or product teams, it's not easy to get their time and resource. So we definitely had to do a lot of research into this and make sure it's actually something that our customers would be able to use. What we came up with is Brand Activator, which you can see here on the side. And that essentially is a tool which allows you to automatically activate and deactivate your keywords based on the fact that we see them as a lone ranger. So again, are you in top position on organic? And do we see any paid competition? If we see any paid competition appearing, we would automatically enable that keyword so that you are live on the SERP. If we see there's no competition, we will deactivate that keyword using a negative keyword script. And what we are doing is taking action on an hourly basis, but we are scraping the SERP up to 5 to 20 times an hour, depending on the volume of the keyword, to really make sure that we are 100% sure that there is no competition there and that organic can be picking up the traffic instead. So as you can see on the side here, we've had some pretty nice results off the back of that. Most of our customers have 6- and 7-figure cost savings using the Brand Activator tool in Adthena, which can then be reinvested into generics or potentially other digital funnels as well, potentially even content for your content team too. A lot of our customers have really been able to identify using the data that we've had from Brand Activator, not only when they could be saving budget, but identify the keywords that we've spoken about before that aren't in top position. So for example, if they can really improve their organic listing on those keywords and get those into top position, then they will get more lone rangers and then they will get more opportunity to save budget on an automatic basis. Obviously that's really important, but if the organic teams and the paid teams aren't aligned and we're not really working on a clear strategy, there is obviously the risk that not many cost savings will be made because we don't see you frequently enough in the top position organically, but also really having a customer journey that your customer is still likely to convert afterwards, even if the paid advert isn't there. So it's really important for us when we have customers saying, oh yes, we saved 200K, we saved £1 million this year, but our revenue has potentially declined, or have we kept our revenue or our conversions, whatever that may be for you guys, have we kept them the same? And that's really important, and that's where organic really comes in to make sure that whatever paid isn't there, that we are making sure that we still convert those customers through the organic channels.
So in some of the ways that Conductor can help, like the first one is that identification. We've looked at it a couple of times today, but really kind of helping to increase that potential saving from Brand Activator by targeting terms to try and move up. And we can look at this from a number of different perspectives. It could be just how close they are to the top spot, how many people are searching for them on a monthly basis. But we've also seen that there's insights from the paid team that can help us to prioritize those. For example, the terms that aren't really working so well for paid, the ones that are most expensive. We can start really being smart about where we're focusing our effort in order to get the best, most efficient performance across the two search channels together. And so, as you've seen today, we were using the keyword tracking part of the Conductor to do that. The way that you can group keywords, both in a smart way, so using rules, but also kind of having these custom lists that can be brought over from Adthena in order to break down the different opportunities there, but also being able to filter and just be really precise about if we're in this position and the monthly search volume is in this range, then we need to focus on those, see if we can optimize a little bit higher and get more keywords into that zone where Brand Activator can then make those automatic efficiencies possible. And then the other side of how Conductor can help, or another side of how Conductor can help, is in the optimization and impact measurements. So using insights from the content guidance feature, which we looked at earlier, that's kind of crawling those result pages, almost kind of reverse engineering some of Google's algorithm. So rather than just kind of giving generic recommendations about, you know, if you want to move this term up so that you can get that better synergy with PPC, then you need to mention the terms more times or whatever. We're actually looking at like what right now is being rewarded with high positions in Google. What are your competitors doing that Google is pushing up to the top of the page, and really being able to use Google's understanding of users, not just in terms of like the kind of results that it wants to serve to them at the top, but also what do they want when they get there? You know, are there people also ask questions on the results page? If so, those are questions that Google associates with the people who are searching for those terms. So not only do we want to rank high, but when they get to our page, can we make sure that we answer those questions for them so that they're going to potentially convert better or spend more time on the page or continue their journey through our site? And then we can also use those engagement insights from the paid team to ensure that we're using the best possible landing page for SEO as well. So we touched on this a little bit while doing the demo, that we can enter in that URL and get, you know, 10 out of 15 top competitors have these terms in their title, but then we can cross-reference that with your content, whether it's the page that is ranking the best organically at the moment, or the one that you would rather ranked higher based on the insights that paid are giving you. And it'll be like, yes, you're also using this term in your title, or no, you're not, in which case you can add that to the brief and get that put in front of the people that are going to be able to make those changes. And then just using that Google Search Console data, as we just looked at in the platform, and kind of closing the loop on the analytics side of it, on the data side of it, still being able to see, are we getting the same amount of clicks overall for the search channels as we were previously when we were relying more heavily on paid, and vice versa. So really making sure that you're not only finding these opportunities to have better synergy across the two channels, but also being able to capitalize on them really quickly and efficiently and be able to measure the impact of that as well. So all in all, like the closer that you work with your paid teams or your organic teams, if you're on the other side, the more information you're going to get about your users, about your performance, and the better you're going to be able to optimize from both sides.
Cool, thank you. So I just wanted to summarize that quickly for everyone, because I know we've talked about a few different things there. But I think the main thing for all of us, whether you work on client side, whether you work with the agency, or whether you work with Conductor and Adthena, the main thing for us is we're making any kind of cost savings or any kind of efficiencies. We really want to make sure that the bottom line is not impacted by that, and that the business itself is still getting the success metric, whether that's conversions or revenue, that they are really driving towards all their digital activity. So yeah, this is a great example of how we can work without doing that together, and how paid and organic teams can work together. So has anyone got any questions for any of us?
A lot of the use cases that were talked about skew to brand kind of search terms. But
yeah,
what opportunities do you think there are when a client only operates within paid in the generic space?
Yeah, I think that's really challenging most of the time, because brand tends to be where you're in the top position, and it also tends to be where you hopefully might see less competition. I can't speak for every brand. Some brands are very competitive. Generics tend to be a little bit more long tail. They tend to be not always in the top position up there. So I think if you're going to do something more automated, And you can see that your generics are still in top position. We can see those generics are without competition, but absolutely this 100% still applies to it. But I think most of the time it tends to be a little bit more varied from a generic activity. So what you can do is kind of pull the data in reports, for example, and see where you are from a generic on a page perspective, where you're ranking for all of those, how much competition you have, and then also compare that with the organic data. And you may be able to spot opportunities, even if it isn't as clear cut as being a low ranger, but even if it's just beneath that, where we can see that organic is actually listing pretty high. We could potentially do a little mini test on that side as well, but it really depends on you and also what your customer wants to achieve with the generic strategy as well.
And from the SEO side on that, there's been research done over the years that looks at whether appearing in both paid and organic, for example, for like generic terms where there is competition and so you wouldn't want to turn off the paid, that the engagement with your site can be greater than the sum of its parts if you're appearing multiple times on the same page. So still being able to use, still kind of seeing that as a net benefit, but being able to use the information from your paid team to be able to say, like, while we know that if we can rank high for these big terms and be on them at the same time, that's going to have a net impact. How can we prioritize those? Which are the ones that convert the best? Which ones get the best click-through rates? And still using that intelligence from kind of the other side of the office to make sure that we're prioritizing those opportunities as well in the best way possible.
Yeah, and with broad match kind of rolling out, and particularly people's brand control data, essentially meaning that competitors will be bidding on more brand terms. Do you see brand activities evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. So it obviously, again, depends on what your individual strategy would be. For a lot of our customers, they may have people bidding on their brand that are actually quite comfortable with being there. Potentially, for example, in travel, you might have OTAs, for example, that you're more than happy to be there on your brand or you have agreements with, in which case we can whitelist them and say we're actually happy for them to be there from a paid perspective, and us still, pause the keyword and save the budget ourselves. That's particularly beneficial if you've got some sort of agreements where they are getting paid, for example, to be there anyway. So they may as well spend their own budget there. But for the rest of the time, it really depends on the individual customer strategy. If they are seeing that amount of high competition, I have, for example, run tests with some brands and I found so much competition for them on set that actually, if anything, we're probably saying back to the business, you need more budget to spend on brand, and you actually probably need to be there as much as possible, given the amount of competition that you see, rather than it being an opportunity to pull back. But the data's still there. It just depends on what the results show and how you want to use that to either save budget or potentially use that as ammunition to get more budget, which a customer of mine has actually done successfully. And actually an automotive customer of mine as well had a lot of issues with dealerships and retailers bidding on their brand, and they didn't really have any clear-cut agreements in place with them. So they were able to use that data to go and speak to them all and kind of come up with agreements in place which said, you bid here, we save money here, you spend there. And that has for them has saved them a lot of budget and also a lot of pain, I think, as well.
To add to that as well, when Performance Max was rolled out, fully hands-off. Yeah, you have the crossover of brand campaigns. I think it's like 6 months later, they then reintroduced so I think even from Google's perspective, there's a lack of clarity and transparency there. So as long as we have native keywords to work with in that instance, I think you can guide the performance of this far better as well. So I think it just goes to show that the try and be as automated as possible to save everyone time. Yeah, so a lot of the interplay here is with the negatives as well.
Cool. All right. Any last questions? Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, I think that concludes the speakers for today. Any other questions, observations, things on people's minds? Don't get it, doesn't make sense? Any feedback?
That's a really broad question. What do you think the future of paid search might be as transfer into an age where it's more chat-based search, which presumably then relies more on kind of
Yeah, good question. So is everyone familiar with generative AI and the releases at Marketing Live and Google? Yeah, everyone nodding. So in my opinion, I think soon we'll probably lose search query report from Google Ads, I reckon. I don't think it's in Google's favor to give search marketers that. That's my bet for this year, okay. with the generative AI, from what I can see, they're trying to encourage everyone to write a small story in the search bar. So queries are getting longer and longer and longer, and you get every answer in one single search. Now we're trying to index that because the test at the moment they're in the US, and it was there last week. It was really prominent when you do any search, the generative AI massive like answers come up. The main risk is organic. That looks like it's, you know, where that's placed on the page, but like shopping and local is really quite high on every search that we see. I think with the search community the way it is, any large changes like that, I think Google will wind back. Like you cannot push the search results page that far down and have an infinite scroll of, say, PLA ads. That just won't work. So I think I'm going to expect some pushback on the generative AI piece, I think, and just stick with what works. But yeah, I think from a Google Ads perspective, when you log in, I do think some of that stuff will just go away. Yeah, it's good for, you know, tools that invest in the SERP and the search results page to get the information back. But I think audience will continue to fly a bit blind in some areas. Yeah. Hopefully that wasn't too doom and gloom, but yeah, there will be help there, right? Any other questions? No? All good. Well, thank you again for the speakers today. Amazing. We'll follow up with the slides as well, and all the information there. So please come up and help yourselves to more drinks and croissants. But thanks for coming this morning. Really good fun. Thank you.
Yeah.